Behind the glass walls of Wall Street, a powerful executive and a young analyst find themselves on opposite sides of a standoff that goes far beyond the numbers. Amid forgotten memories, hidden risks, and choices of conscience, what truly matters may redefine entire destinies. Michael Grant adjusted his tie in front of the executive bathroom mirror. At 45, his reflection showed a successful man, gray hair at the temples, piercing blue eyes, impeccable posture in his Italian suit. Head of structured products at one of Wall Street's largest banks, he had built his reputation with relentless determination and an undeniable talent for numbers. As he dried his hands, he let out an almost imperceptible sigh. The empty apartment in Tribeca awaited him after yet another exhausting day. The digital clock in the kitchen, the one Margaret had chosen when they were still married, would be his only company. Since the divorce 3 years ago, Michael had plunged even further into work, turning spreadsheets and meetings into substitutes for real connections. As he left, he walked down the corridor with glass walls that revealed Manhattan in all its glory. The world outside seemed so small from that height. His assistant, Lily Carter, was waiting with an organized stack of documents and a serious expression on her face. "Good morning, Mr. Grant. The Risk Committee has requested an urgent meeting for 10 a.m. I have the reports you asked for and—" She hesitated for a moment. "There's a compliance alert we need to discuss." Michael frowned. Compliance alerts were never good news. "Which product?" he asked, entering his office. "The Horizon 7, sir. The one with structured volatility for pension funds." The Horizon 7 was the department's new flagship product, a complex instrument that promised stable returns in turbulent markets. It was especially attractive to pension funds seeking security with yield. It was about to be launched globally after months of development. "Leave everything on my desk and call Pearson and Hamilton. I want to understand this alert before the committee meeting." Lily Carter methodically organized the documents as the executives arrived. At 29, she was considered one of the best assistants at the bank, efficient, discreet, and surprisingly perceptive for someone in her position. Few knew, but she was also a junior analyst, having secured the position after completing her evening MBA while working as an administrative assistant. In her drawer, she kept a series of hardcover notebooks where she noted stories from the bank, not gossip or corporate secrets, but small acts of kindness and integrity she witnessed. It was her way of honoring the memory of her father, Harold Carter, who had been a janitor in that same building for 30 years. "Numbers can lie, Lily," her father used to say, "but the character of people always tells the truth." Harold had passed away 2 years ago due to cancer. Before leaving, he gave her a box with photographs and memories of his life at the bank. Among them, surprisingly, were several that included the young Michael Grant. The conference room was buzzing with tense voices. Michael occupied the head of the table, surrounded by impeccably suited executives with cautious expressions. "Who triggered the alert?" he asked, his voice cutting through the murmur. A momentary silence hovered over the room until Lily stepped forward. "I, sir," she said, keeping her hands firmly crossed to disguise a slight tremor. "I identified a hidden correlation in the Horizon 7 model." "Explain," commanded Michael, his gaze intensifying. "The model we acquired from the external consultancy has structural flaws. When I tested extreme scenarios, I discovered there is a direct correlation with default rates that was not disclosed in the documentation. If there is a significant widening of the spread in the market, pension funds will be the first to suffer substantial losses." She hesitated before adding, "We're talking about the pensions of teachers, nurses, public servants." The executives exchanged worried looks. Pearson, the vice president of product development, cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Miss Carter, your tests are excessively pessimistic. We are talking about scenarios that have minimal statistical probability." "The 2008 crisis was also statistically unlikely," retorted Lily, keeping her voice calm. "My analysis shows that the model has fundamental deficiencies that were deliberately hidden in the documentation." "Are you accusing our consultancy of fraud?" Pearson leaned forward, visibly irritated. "I'm presenting mathematical facts, so—" Michael watched the confrontation with an impassive expression. Internally, however, he saw the millions invested in the development of Horizon 7 evaporating, along with the team's quarterly bonuses and, more importantly, the client's trust. A compliance alert meant delays, investigations, and potentially the cancellation of the launch. "Do you have any idea of the cost of this to the bank, Carter?" he finally asked, his voice icy. "This product represents a significant investment and is scheduled for launch next week." "I understand, Mr. Grant, but the cost of ignoring this risk would be much higher. Not just financially, but what? Are you going to give me a lecture on banking responsibility?" Michael stood up, resting his hands on the table. "You just cost millions to the table, Carter. You're fired." An awkward silence filled the room. Some executives averted their eyes, while others closed their notebooks with feigned focus. Lily remained still for a few seconds, her face pale, but her posture upright. "I understand, sir," she finally said, with surprising dignity. "I will hand over my badge to security." As she left the room, no one dared to look her in the eye. Hours later, Michael returned to his office after numerous emergency meetings. The risk committee was in a panic. The legal department was assessing possible repercussions, and the communications team was preparing for potential leaks. On his desk, he noticed a brown envelope that wasn't there before. Inside, he found an old photograph and a handwritten note. The photograph showed a much younger Michael, perhaps 25 years old, alongside an older African-American man in a janitor's uniform. Both were smiling, the young Michael with a crooked tie and hopeful eyes, the janitor with a protective hand on his shoulder. The note, written in careful handwriting, read, "Mr. Grant, my father, Harold Carter, always spoke of September 11th, 2001, as the day he saw the true character of people. While everyone else was running out, he told me that a young analyst stayed behind to help an elderly secretary down the stairs. He kept this photo because he believed you represented the best of Wall Street, someone who, even when scared, put people above numbers. Perhaps this is no longer important to you, but I thought you should know that my father admired you deeply. Respectfully, Lily Carter." Alongside the note was a $1 check, made out by Lily to Michael Grant, with a description, "Forgiveness fee." Michael sat heavily in his chair, the photograph trembling slightly in his hands. The memories of that terrible day returned in flashes. The confusion, the fear, the dust, and Harold Carter, the janitor who found him paralyzed in the lobby. "Son, breathe," Harold had said, his calm voice cutting through the chaos. "There are things money can't solve. What matters now is to walk straight and help those in need." Together, they had helped Eleanor, a 70-year-old secretary with knee problems, down dozens of floors. When they finally reached the street, Harold took this photograph with a small camera he carried to capture a colleague's birthday. "To remember that there are things more important than this building," he explained as he snapped the photo. Michael ran his hand over his face, feeling a weight in his chest that was not just guilt but something deeper, the realization of how far he had strayed from that idealistic young man in the photograph. The next morning, without telling anyone, Michael requested the full data of the Horizon 7 model and locked himself in his office. For hours, he delved into the numbers, testing the scenarios Lily had mentioned. She was right. The model contained a significant structural flaw. Even more disturbing, he found emails indicating that Pearson had been warned of the issue weeks before but chose to hide it to avoid delaying the launch and compromising his quarterly bonus. Michael picked up the phone. "I need Lily Carter's contact number." After a few minutes, he dialed the number. "Ms. Carter, it's Michael Grant. Could you come to the bank tomorrow for a conversation? It's important." There was a brief silence on the other side. "I'm officially off duty, sir." "Lily," he deliberately used her first name. "If I'm right, you prevented a disaster, and I made a terrible mistake." When Lily entered the meeting room the next day, Michael noticed her cautious posture. She wore a simple yet elegant suit and carried a folder as if she was still part of the team. "Thanks for coming," he began. "I analyzed your numbers. You were right about the Horizon 7. Lily nodded, not showing surprise. "I also discovered that Pearson knew of the problems for weeks. He deliberately ignored the initial alerts. I suspected that, she replied. He dismissed my concerns 3 times before I decided to contact compliance. Michael watched her with new respect. You knew this could cost your job. I knew it could cost the life savings of teachers, nurses, and workers, Lily replied, without raising her voice. My father used to say that the most important accounting is the one we do with our conscience. He would not forgive me if I stayed silent. Michael felt a lump in his throat. I remember your father well. Harold found me at one of my worst moments. He taught me a lesson that I somehow forgot along the way. Lily smiled slightly. He always said the world goes up by elevator, but character goes up by stairs. In the weeks that followed, Michael and Lily worked side by side compiling a comprehensive report on the Horizon 7's flaws. With irrefutable evidence, they presented their findings to the executive committee, resulting in the product's suspension and Pearson's dismissal for ethical violation. In a public meeting, Michael announced not only Lily's reinstatement but her promotion to senior risk analyst, reporting directly to him. The gesture sent a clear message throughout the bank. Integrity would be rewarded, not punished. At night, after the announcement, Michael went down to the ground floor. In the maintenance staff locker room, there was still a small locker with a faded nameplate, Harold Carter. He touched the metal surface reverently. Thank you, Harold, he murmured, for reminding me who I should be. 6 months later, the bank launched a new line of structured products, developed under Lily's direct supervision. Unlike their predecessors, these products prioritize transparency and customer protection, especially for pension funds. At the investor presentation, Michael surprised everyone by announcing the creation of the Harold Carter Program, an internal fund dedicated to providing scholarships for entry-level bank employees who wish to advance academically. In Wall Street, he explained to the attendees, we often measure success in dollars and cents. But true wealth lies in the impact we have on people's lives. This program honors a man who taught me many years ago that walking straight is more important than walking fast. After the presentation, a manager of a teacher's fund approached Michael. Mr. Grant, we almost lost the retirement savings of thousands of educators in the last crisis. Seeing a bank take reputational risks to protect its clients is rare and valuable in this market. Later, in his office, Michael contemplated the photograph of Harold now prominently displayed in a silver frame. Lily entered with some reports. The new products are receiving excellent acceptance, she commented. Transparency seems to be a competitive edge, after all. Who would have thought? Michael smiled. He opened the drawer and pulled out the $1 check Lily had given him. On the back, he had written, some debts are unpayable. Thank you for reminding me of what truly matters. He handed the check back to her. I think we should frame this too, as a daily reminder. Lily smiled, accepting the check. Ready to implement the welcome alert policy, boss? She asked. Ready to remember, every day, that true wealth doesn't fit on any spreadsheet, he replied, looking out the window at the city that never sleeps but perhaps sometimes needs to awaken to values beyond numbers. On his office wall, the photograph of a young analyst and a wise janitor would continue to remind everyone who entered. In a world obsessed with market value, true value lies in the choices we make when no one is watching, or when everyone is looking the wrong way.